instruments that you're hearing may sound like they're coming from a real orchestra, but their appearance may surprise you. The Junk Orchestra's creator, Paul Snider, is an actor, musician, and techie from Toronto, Ontario. But the most distinguishing thing about him is his passion for creating musical instruments out of actual garbage.
It's only the last 2 years that I got really serious about doing something in music. And so, I always had this idea of making instruments out of junk. And I always wondered, could you make an entire orchestra? Would it sound good? Visually, what would it look like? And would people be interested in it? I've always been interested in the types of sounds that come from non-musical items. And then, I was in Kenya in 2011, and that was really the first time we were volunteering at a children's school. And then I was teaching music, and then so the kids started playing on their desks, and it sounded really good. And then I thought, geez, that's a great sound. I wonder if you mic'd it and you add a bit of reverb, could that be the basis of some sort of a junk orchestra?
While in the process of creating his instruments, Snider's idea for an orchestra of junk instruments began to unfold into a reality.
This thing, I could never say to somebody, well, go get a field hockey stick and go get some dryer vent ducting and build a violin, because I don't know, right? So I take the stick, I cut it, I'm like, oh, it kind of looks like a violin, I wonder if we could use it. And then I'd build this piece and it would be wrong, and I'd rip it apart and build it again, but that's not something that I could really get somebody to help me with. Without this cello, I don't think the orchestra would exist, because this was the first one that I did. And it's one of those things where you've got to build the whole thing before you know whether it works or not. Right? You have an idea that it might work, but until you build the support, you put all this together and you tune it. And then when you tune it, that's kind of the last step, and the whole thing starts to collapse because the structure's not strong enough. So you take it apart and you add more structure. And so I spent maybe 2 weeks on it, and then I took a bow and I slid it across it, and I heard the sound. And at that point, I knew that this orchestra was going to work. And it wasn't really until then that, that I knew that you could make beautiful music out of pieces of junk.
As for what's next, Snider says he plans to further expand the orchestra and hopes to tour around Canada in the near future.